D4U USA channel. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are immigration experts helping entrepreneurs and professionals live their American dream through their business, their investment, and their profession. My name is Attorney Mari Ribeiro, and I am a Florida licensed lawyer. And today we're going to be talking about the EB2 National Interest Waiver and the documents needed to present the strongest case possible. So everything we talk about is going to be considered educational purposes only, and it should not be taken as personalized legal advice. Now, you might be asking, well, if you're a lawyer, why can't I use this as legal advice? Well, it's because you and your situation is very unique, and that's why I would invite you to reach out to us. I am leaving the email here around this video so that you can contact us if you want personalized legal advice. We are more than happy to give that to you. But today, everything is just going to be general information to help educate you on what documents you need for your EB2 National Interest Waiver. So let's dive into it. First of all, let's have a recap and just remind you guys what is an EB2 National Interest Waiver. Well, this is a visa specifically for professionals, entrepreneurs, and investors to live and work within the United States without having to rely on a sponsor or a job offer from the United States. But there is also a way that you can also get your green card through the EB2 National Interest Waiver. Essentially, it is a self-petition, which means that you don't have to rely on a U.S. employer or a U.S. company to help you live your American dream. So let's talk about the forms that you need and the documentation that you're going to need to provide in order to move through this petition. So first, you're going to need the I-140, which is the immigrant petition for an alien worker. Now, this is an immigration form that allows you as a foreigner to immigrate to the United States based on your profession or your employment. Now, this is where the U.S. government usually requires having a job offer from an American-based company. However, the beautiful thing about the EB2 National Interest Waiver is that you are essentially asking the U.S. government to waive the requirement of a U.S. employer because the work that you are doing is so beneficial to the United States that they should have you in the United States doing what it is that you do best for the benefit of the U.S. government. So that's going to be the first form that you're going to need is the I-140, which is the immigrant petition for an alien worker. Next up is Form I-485, which is the application to register a permanent residence or adjust your status. Now, remember earlier I mentioned that the EB2 National Interest Waiver is a visa which will allow you to obtain your green card. And this is the form in which you are asking for your green card with your petition. So this form allows you to adjust your status to become a permanent resident, which means that you are a green card holder. The great thing about this form is that you don't have to wait until you first submit the I-140 and wait for the government to approve that form before you can adjust your status and file the I-485 and become a green card holder. You can file them both at the same time, which is known as a concurrent filing. And of course, they're going to be processed at the same time. But in order to do this, take note that you do have to be within the United States at the time of your filing. Now let's talk about the supporting documentation that you're going to need for your petition. So you will need to submit other documentation as proof in support and supplementing your petition forms. Now these might vary depending on how you qualify for the EB2 National Interest Waiver, but in general you're going to definitely need to show the following documentation. But like I mentioned, it's going to very much depend on your specific situation, which is again why it's important for you to reach out to an expert like D4U USA. So first you need to show what kind of education you have received as a professional or an entrepreneur. So first up, we have the requirement of an advanced degree. So these are professionals or entrepreneurs that have completed a traditional university degree, and then they continue their studies and obtain a postgraduate degree because the work that they're doing actually requires an advanced degree like a master's, a doctorate, or a PhD. Now, what about if you don't have a master's, doctorate, or a PhD? You're not a holder of these advanced degrees. No worries, there's another way in which you can provide documentation, which would be showing that you have a bachelor's degree, a regular university degree, plus 10 years of progressive work experience. So these are for professionals without the advanced degree, and they have at least 10 years of progressive work experience in their field. So the highlight here is the word progressive work experience. How do you show that you've made progress in the years that you've been working in your field? This is going to be mainly through showing documentation that you have had increases in your salary from the time that you've started in those beginning of 10 years to up until the 10 years. How much money can you show that you've increasingly made throughout your career? Have you been promoted? So we want to also look at the job titles, if there are successions of not just money, but also the titles in which you hold within your profession as well. What about increases in your duties and responsibilities? Did you have a certain amount of duties that increased over time, as well as being more responsible in your working environment? The USCIS does not have concrete guidelines, meaning the immigration officers don't actually have hardcore guidelines of what is considered progressive work experience. So this actually means that you have a lot of freedom in the types of documentation that you're going to be able to use as evidence to show your progress. The most important thing with this documentation is that you are actually showing that you didn't stay stagnant in your job doing the same thing over and over again for years on end with the same pay, the same job title, and the same responsibilities. They want to see that you've moved up the ladder in your profession and can actually show it with proving documentation. Now, if you are educated outside of the United States, you are going to need to have what's called an academic evaluation and an expert opinion letter. So now, your credentials may be more or less the same as those from who receive an education in the United States. So your academic credentials need to be evaluated to see if they are equivalent to an education received in the United States. This is usually done by a private company, and that's where they offer the academic evaluation. Now, on the other hand, an expert opinion letter is a professional and an expert who is writing their opinion supporting your petition. Now, both of these are crucial for your petition. And in fact, we actually have 2 videos dedicated specifically to the academic evaluation and another one for the expert opinion letter. So take a look at that for more details on these 2 parts of your application and the documents needed to fill in those. Moving right along, the next thing that you're going to need to show are letters documenting your 10 years of full-time experience in your occupation. Now, this could be pretty straightforward, but it is going to be people that can write on your behalf and corroborate the fact that you do have 10 years of work experience in your field. Next, if your professional requires a license, now then we are going to want to see evidence of that license that you have in order to practice the profession that you are in. What about a certification? Do you have a certification that's required in order for you to work as this professional or within this occupation? You're going to want to submit that licensing and the certification as well. Next is you're going to want to show evidence that you have actually commanded a salary for your exceptional ability. This means usually that you are paid much more than your peers. You're going to want to show proof like pay stubs and things like that that will show that you have actually earned more money than the people in your profession as well. Next is you're going to want to show that you have memberships in professional associations. So this is showing that you are active within your professional community. The next on the list is recognition. So do you have achievements or significant contributions within your industry that has been recognized by your field or your peers, or maybe government entities or other professionals or business organizations? This is going to help show that you are an authority in your field because you have been recognized as such. And lastly, it's going to be any other evidence that otherwise shows your eligibility. So this is kind of like a catch-all where the government says, anything else you got, we want to see it. Even if it may not fall within these previous categories, if it's going to help support your eligibility and make a strong petition for your case, then we want to see it as well. Now, let's talk about the national interest waiver portion, which is actually the most important part of your application, and showing that your work is of such importance that it's going to benefit the United States on a national level. Now, the national interest waiver is essentially asking the government to waive the requirement that you be offered a job in the United States or be sponsored by a U.S. company. Now, there are 3 factors that the government will consider in order to see if you qualify for the national interest waiver. The first thing that they're going to look at is your work has to be of substantial merit and of national importance. Next, they're going to see, are you positioned to actually advance the work that you're looking to do within the United States? And lastly, would it be beneficial to the United States to waive the requirement of a job offer because you don't need to have a labor certification, a U.S. employer sponsoring you, because it is actually in the benefit of the United States not to require this from you. Let's focus on the substantial merit portion first. So this means the work that you're coming to do within the United States will have such a positive impact in the U.S. business, science, technology, culture, health, education, or infrastructure within the United States. The immigration officer, when they're reviewing your petition, they're going to want to see, will your work in the United States benefit the U.S. economy? Will your work improve working conditions or wages for U.S. workers? Will your work improve education programs for workers or children? Will you help create affordable housing? Does your work help the environment? Are you going to be improving the U.S. healthcare system as a whole? Are you going to be upgrading the infrastructure within the United States? Are you going to be showing sufficient evidence that the work you are doing in the United States will be such an important endeavor that it's going to impact the United States on an entire national level? So now this usually requires documents like official reports or statistics, business plans, contracts with governmental authorities. Just to give you an example, they're really going to want to see any kind of documentation that's going to help support how important the work is that you are doing to the United States as a whole. Now, this is why it is crucial for you to contact experts like D4U, because we can absolutely help strategize the best types of evidence that you can use to support your petition and, of course, give you the strongest chances possible to live your American dream through the EB2 National Interest Waiver. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.